This week I'm going to show you 3 extensions to JupyterLab that I wish I had known about a long time ago and how to make your notebooks even more useful. Welcome to another MetPy Monday. Hello, I'm John Lehman, a software engineer for Unidata. This week I wanted to show you some JupyterLab extensions that are very, very useful and that I wish I had started using quite a while ago, honestly. We've talked about extensions before with things like widgets, but we haven't really explored them in depth. And unless you go fishing around the menu on the left side of your JupyterLab console, you probably haven't really messed with them much either. But this puzzle icon is the extension manager, and it turns out to be a very easy way to install these extensions and manage what's installed. Now I'll show you there's also a command line way to do this, of course, if you prefer that, or if the extension manager isn't working for some reason. I will say that some of these features are probably going to be baked into future versions of JupyterLab, so depending on when you're watching this video, you may already see some of this without an extension. All right, if we click on the extension manager, the first thing that you'll probably see, if you're not using extensions already, is a warning. And currently I have mine enabled, so I have a disable button. You'll probably have a warning that says, we don't vet these third-party extensions. Do you really want to use them? Of course, that's a decision you have to make based on your own cybersecurity risk tolerance. Next is the installed. So I have 4 installed. We'll look at that in a little more detail. Then there's Discover. These are packages or extensions that might be useful. So for example, here's one if you need to manipulate tags and sell metadata. There's a debugger that we're going to talk about in the future. And then of course you can also search. So the first one, if you search spell check, you're going to get a search results tab. And if you search spell checker, you're going to get a slightly different set potentially depending on what packages are out there. I've already got one installed, which is this JupyterLab spell checker. This is the Git repo for it, so JupyterLab-contrib spell checker. If we look at the Git page, it shows you the command line installation as well. Now, I don't know how many times I've had notebooks go out and get read by other folks, and then they find spelling errors. This is really slick, and it works in the markdown cells of your notebook. So here I have our basic time series plotting notebook from the Unidata Python workshop. I'm going to open a markdown cell, and we see that it is highlighted in red things it believes are misspelled. Now, a lot of these aren't, and a lot of them are in HTML tags. Normally, you're not going to have that in a markdown cell. We just have some HTML to make this a little snazzier in the header. So I'm going to insert a cell. I'm going to make it a markdown cell. Part 1. This is, and you see the highlighting popping up as I'm typing, the first section of the notebook. So you can see it has highlighted my misspellings. Now it doesn't do the right-click spell suggestion like you might be used to, but compared to having no spell check, this is amazing. And it's very, very useful. It'll make your notebooks more professional, and you don't have to keep copying and pasting in and out of your favorite text editor that does have spell check. Okay, so that's the first plugin that I wish I had used. Next is the Collapsible Headings. If we go to the Git page, you can see the install line right here, or of course you can do it from the extension manager. Now this is a little bit of a setup because I just put a part 1 heading here. I'm going to go down and I'm going to put a part 2 heading. Make sure it's a markdown cell. All right, so what this package does, or this extension, is it takes any H1, or the single pound, and makes it collapsible. So everything under it collapses. So now our whole notebook is hidden under these 2 headings. This is great if you've got a lot of code that you want to not necessarily be viewed all the time, say a bunch of functions that aren't really that important, they're just utility, but you don't want to have them anywhere else. You could collapse those. It also makes teaching from this very nice because you can go over one section of the notebook, and once you're done with that, collapse it out of the way. So collapsible headings, a very useful addition, and again, it takes about, I'm going to say maybe 90 seconds to do that install. It's very quick and very, very useful. And finally, the third extension that I wish I had known about is the table of contents, and this is from JupyterLab themselves. It gives you this icon over here on the left, and when we click, we get a table of contents of our notebook, and we can click anywhere in the table of contents to go to that header. So if I want to add, let's say this is a H2 heading, I'm going to add an H3 heading, code example 1. We'll go down just a little bit. Code example 2. All right, so as I run that, you see that it has updated over here in the left, so it follows all of these headings and makes it very quick, especially if someone asks a question and you want to show a specific part of your notebook, maybe during a talk or during a course. You can just pull up the table of contents and quickly go to that section of the notebook. If you want to see the table of contents GitHub repo, it's under JupyterLab, JupyterLab-TOC. And this is the installation line. Oddly enough, this is the only one of these extensions that I had to install with the command line. The GUI installer inside JupyterLab itself did not work for me, but I'm sure that will change shortly. So with these 3 extensions, you can make your notebooks really like a notebook, except your notebook now has spell check, and it's got those divider tabs that we all like to put in our notebooks so we can flip to anywhere easily. And even better yet, we can collapse sections out of the way when we don't need them. This makes them ideal for teaching, or even more so. It also makes it very good for your research, where you can collapse things out of the way that you don't need to see, or quickly get to a section to answer a question during a meeting with your advisor, during a talk, or just while you're working on your own. I hope that you found this useful and will comment with your favorite JupyterLab extensions below. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on next week's MetPy Monday.